Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this LinkedIn Live, the first LinkedIn Live after the summer break, at least for the one which are in the upper part of the world. And I'm sure that a few of you are still enjoying some vacation, so you may be watching the recording of this event. So a warm welcome also to the ones that will be watching us on a recorded basis. By the way, from where are you watching this webinar? Let us know where are you based. Are you still somewhere on an exotic beach, but somehow you missed your job and you wanted to learn more about procurement and innovation, or you're just back in your office or in your home office and just using your lunch break or your dinner break if you're in Asia or your breakfast if you are in the US to connect with us. So do let us know a bit more. We are always interested and curious to learn more about our audience. And in StreamYard, which is the tool that we use for our LinkedIn Live, on the right-hand side, you have a chat box, and that gives you the opportunity to write any comment, ask questions, and interact with us in different ways. By the way, this is your LinkedIn Live. So do not hesitate to ask us questions at a different time during the event. We will be taking any question that may be relevant for the broader audience so that we can get Catherine perspective on this. Okay, by the way, we have Tanya that is joining us during the lunch break. Thank you very much from Portugal. I hope it's a sunny day, like is often the case. It's a sunny day also in Switzerland, where Catherine and I are based. By the way, I'm here with Catherine Aung. So, Catherine, how about telling us a bit more about yourself so that the audience can discover who is our guest today?
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. I hope that people will find it useful. I'm happy to share some insight that I gathered as a role of CPO in a big pharma company and head of innovation in that same company. I've also had different roles in finance and worked over 20 years on two sides of things, on finance, project management, office change management. So the efficiency side, I would say, during 20 years, and the last 7 years, I switched gears and worked more in the area of innovation, the creation of new businesses, new ways of working. I worked in Ernst Young, at SGS, at Nestlé, at Ferring Pharmaceuticals, and more recently at Evonik. So I'm a corporate animal, I would say.
Wow, but you quite a portfolio of great companies to work with. So fantastic. And maybe, since the two topics of the day are procurement and innovation, then, how did you move from procurement to innovation?
Yes, it's the conversion took, I would say, 2 years, because it was unknown for me and unknown as well for my management at that time on what we wanted to do. So I will start first by explaining what happened to me first and why I wanted to change that. I was part of a think tank, and one of the head of this think tank invited me on a LinkedIn group, and I didn't know exactly at that time how that was working. So I decided not to, and I thought I leave that to other people. And then I reflected to myself. I said, I need to jump on this topic. It's not only for the other people. I need to jump on it as well. And I reopened my LinkedIn. I accepted the group, and since then I started to really understand what innovation means, what digital innovation means, what is it all about, these movements. And I was convinced myself that this was the future. We were in 2015 at that time when this happens. Since then, now we all know that it has worked well, and it was not only sparkling and would stop. Yeah. And then in my company, it was a little bit different, right? Because they didn't expect procurement to work on innovation. At that time, like it is for most procurement group,
Yeah.
procurement is there to work on efficiency, on risk management, and that's very good to do so. But we're not waited on see how we can help the business grow and how to help the business go further, also on sustainability and other topics. So it took me a while to convince management, but in life it's good to be talented. It's even better when you have a chance. And I had the chance to have in my team someone very nice, very a great professional who understood what I wanted to do with the function, and he also thought that it was the right thing to do. So he started to work with me on this, and all of a sudden, I was not the only one fighting in the company, but we were two. And that makes the whole difference, yeah, because you don't feel alone anymore. You see, maybe my ideas are right, huh? And then I was also lucky that after long discussions internally, my management told me, you can do innovation with procurement when you've done all the savings, all the risk mitigation plans, and so on. I said, okay, I take the challenge. They said, but you will not have budgets and you will have no extra resources to do so. I said, okay, can I at least call volunteers? They said, yes, that you can do. So I did. And 35 people across the company went to work with us from all over the world. So it was really nice to see people were seeing the interest of combining a blueprint on innovation, what it could mean for the company. So they felt really inspired. So we all worked extra time on this. And then our management saw that there was something there. The blueprint was ready. We knew what we wanted to do. And then I was also again lucky that one member of the executive board liked this program, and she decided to sponsor it. And at some point, after a while, I had two jobs, right? Innovation and procurement. And they've asked me to choose. I've asked, can I combine those two for a while? And they said, no, you need to choose now. I said, okay. So now I'm jumping in innovation. And here I am. I'm really passionate about this work. Procurement was great, and innovation too, I must say.
Okay. By the way, back to my procurement experience in a corporate world, often procurement organization launch Suppliers Day.
Yes,
And we ask to supplier, please bring us ideas, bring something that is going to help us. And then suppliers comes with all the ideas, and nothing happens.
exactly. Exactly,
How did
because
you solve this kind of challenge? Because this is something that in my consulting experience I have witnessed quite often.
yes, I think it's a very good question because it happens very often. It was the same for us. There were some nice vendors knocking on our doors with great innovation, and when I was turning to the business, nobody was. They say, "Why are you procurement into this?" So no, or you don't know anything about our business, so leave us alone, etc. So it was quite difficult. But we took one project from a vendor. At that time, it was a global packaging company. They had developed a nice digital solutions. And when we discussed, we really saw that there would be a great interest, and we started to approach marketing and show this is what we can do. Is there a customer business business benefits behind? And then we started to see that there was one. It was on adherence to treatment at that time, which is a very important topic to address in pharma. And we had the solution, so we nicely fit it together. But it took a lot of time to convince a few business people. So I think the trick is to link and create strong relationship with the business, understand the business as well, and see how we could position it. Uh, so that's usually how it starts.
Hmm. Yeah, so two strong points, to remember for our audience, this idea of the connection, the networking, the relationship
Yes,
with the business, and also understanding the business so that you are clear about what is going to bring really an added value
yes.
to the company to make it happen. Fantastic.
Mm.
And you mentioned that you had to choose at a certain moment in time, and you ended up to go into the innovation area. So, how did you work in procurement help you to switch to
Yes.
this new role?
Yes, there was some areas that I could transpose. One was first the strategic thinking. Procurement and innovation, they're here to support the business to grow or to be more efficient. There are many ways why it supports. Strategically, both functions have something to bring. They protect the core, they develop the core, and they work on the new. Procurement, I would say, is 80% on the core, 20% on the new for the most progressive procurement groups. For innovation, it's 80% on the new, 20% on improving the core. But still, the mindset is there. So the strategic thinking was one element. The second, I would say, is really, and I could not insist more on the customer focus. When I built the Global Innovation Lab, we started to get some insight on the customer. And then we design solutions, not only to find there's these nice packaging solutions, what could we do with it, but working the other way around. And I strongly encourage people, but even me, when I'm in different positions now in the business, I still want to go and talk to customers, because once we understand their pain points, their issues, the jobs to be done, I would some people call it, then it's much easier to position and search for the innovation solutions that you want. So I would say this is the second, customer focus, and then designing solution. I think one part as well is to the elaboration of contract. Even when you elaborate a direct material contract, it still could be innovative in on the supply chain side of things, on the risk mitigation, or many things. And I like this creativity when building contracts. And when you build a partnership with a small company or a big one, even for innovation, it's the same. It needs to be creative and think, once you know where you want to go, how you can get there. And the last point you mentioned, that is the stakeholder management. I cannot influence more on this. It's super important to understand. Yeah, so I recommend to even visit some customers if possible.
Okay, amazing. Now, Catherine, there is a point that I would like to clarify for our audience.
Yes.
What you're saying is that somehow you use both push and pull. So on one side, you had, okay, which these are the problems that we need to be solved, because that's what our business needs. And on the other side, you had supplier coming up with ideas and say, well, this is an innovative solution that we have for packaging. Can this be useful for some of your products? Is this the way you play with it? And if yes, which of the two has proven to be more effective from your experience?
I think it at some point you need both. So first, once we understand what we want to do and where we want to go and how the innovation strategy linked to the overall business strategy, then it's easier to filter. But at the same time, it's also good that some vendors knock on your door and present some activities that they're doing, so that you can do so much. So you need a pipeline of both the problems you need to solve and some ways to resolve it. So it's important to keep this pipeline open as well. And then there's even a third pipeline, which is the partnership with IT, from the pure technology side, not only the concept of a business from a startup, for example, but new technologies, whether quantum computing now or metaverse or whatever. How will that be helpful? So it's important, I would say, to keep those three pipeline open, but the ones who will drive will be the customer ones.
Okay, amazing. By the way, Catherine, there is another thing that comes into my mind. Uh, One of the mistakes that I have seen often in procurement organization is a focus an extreme focus on cost, right? Somehow, the procurement function is measured mainly on cost. So, there may be a temptation to choose the low cost supplier, and they may not be the one that are going to have the best innovation capabilities.
True.
They're not the one that maybe put the bigger part of the budget on R&D and those kind of things. So, uh, uh, did you find this challenge, and how did you address it?
Yes, I think the way we've addressed it, we comparted two things, right? The one with the low cost that we needed for whatever reasons, and then for the other ones, we left again this pipeline open, and we were listening to some other people, and when they had a new concept to present to us, we took it with the business. So it was not so much a question of cost in that case; it was more a question on how can we solve these customer problems, and we had both. And even with that partner on the packaging I was mentioning, on one side, we were negotiating hard on the packaging cost, but we were discussing as well on the innovation. That's why the relationship comes into play. The suppliers understand they need to work on the cost as well. So my recommendation is to have a portfolio of suppliers.
Yeah. Uh, by the way, just sharing with you the story that I heard from one of the supplier. It dates from a few years back, but Philips, the technology, the electronics company, the way you want to call it, had the reputation with supplier of being very cost driven.
Mm-hmm.
So what supplier told me is, listen, we're not going to bring an innovation to Philips, because if we bring it to Philips, they're going to squeeze us on price, and that's already damaging everything. So, we'd rather bring it to somebody else and then let the Philips people come to us and say, please, give us this technology, because when you build the wrong reputation in the market, then this may have a negative impact on your innovation capabilities.
Absolutely, that is the what we call the customer of choice solutions, and we've addressed that as well with some questionnaires with some of our vendors to understand where how they would position us, and yes, it's true. It's that's why also some companies have created innovation group quite separate from the core business, because then it's easier to talk with those ones in isolation from procurement and from activities to solve kind of these problems. Yeah, I can understand that. I think it comes as well to being clear on your innovation strategy and what you expect from your partners. And if the partners expect an access to market, for example, then you need to bring that to them and not only hammer them on the cost, because then there's no alignment on what they need and on what you need. And if there's no alignment, there's no room for partnership, for sure.
Yeah. By the way, before we continue, because this topic also, the partnership, is something where I would like to investigate a bit more, but just let me tell to our audience a couple of our future events, because there is a lots of activity coming up with CIBL in terms of LinkedIn Live. So already next week, same time on Thursday at 1 o'clock. So it's going to be the 1st of September. We will be talking about effective communication with healthcare regulators. As a guest, we will have Eric Klassen, an amazing consultant, but most of his career he was in a corporate environment. He was a vice president of regulatory affairs, so quality, etc. And the link to the event is over there. Eric is an amazing communicator. We also run some workshop together, and so if you are in quality, in regulatory affairs, in market access and pricing, whatever, you may enjoy this event on the 1st of September. So for the colleagues on the healthcare. The people that like negotiation instead, the one that interested in negotiation, they will instead get what they want the week after. So on the 8th of September, and the 8th of September at 2 o'clock European time, we are going to have a great American professor, Susanna De Janaz. We will be talking about seizing everyday negotiation opportunities. Susanna is well known. She has written 7 articles for Harvard Business Review. She was the negotiation professor at IMD. Now she's at George Mason in the US. And so if you're interested in negotiation, 8th of September. If you're an healthcare professional, then the 1st of September. And of course, you're welcome to join both events, and you find the link in the chat to sign up right away for both events. But let's go back to, by the way, let me also give you a preview about another event which is coming up, 22nd on September at 1 o'clock. I will be running a webinar, so I will not be interviewing someone. I will be running a webinar, and the topic is who should make the first offer in a negotiation. So we will go more in depth on the topic of you should make it, when you make it, when you let the other party make it, how should be your offer, how do you deal with counter offer, and all those kind of things. So 22nd of September, 1 o'clock, you want already pencil it in your calendar if you have a passion for negotiation. Back to Catherine, because you were talking about partnership and collaboration with vendors. So maybe can you give me 1 or 2 examples of our partnership are key to innovate?
Yes. So just to come back to the last point that you made, you remember I attended one of your course, and you mentioned very strongly who anchors the first offer, and I keep that on all my negotiations. So thank you for the tip. I still get it. So So yeah, I gave an example of the packaging companies that I mentioned. I think I would give another one which is related to a startup this time. We wanted to collaborate with the startup because this company has developed a digital solution which was live for a couple of years, and the lady, the CEO of this company, and the company had acquired a couple of millions data points that were very interesting for us to understand. Because as pharma, you know very well your direct customers who are the physicians, but you know a little bit less how the real world works with the drug. So this company has this knowledge, and they were searching for money, and also for to get some insight on what are the next questions that other customers may be needed. So maybe needing, sorry. So it was also a kind of partnerships where they needed money, we needed insight. So in that case, it was more transactional. We purchased the insight on the data. And so it depends really on what we want. That was an example. The other one was an example that the company was a B2B company, and they wanted to reach out to our customers, the physicians, and that's why we partnered together to build this solution to help them access the customer. So depending on what company you are, there are a lot of core elements and core values that you have for some other companies, and when you package those value, what you so that you can attract the startups to work with you, I think that's a good starting point.
Mhm. By the way, a message for the one that are passionate about negotiation that you can take away from the way Catherine explained the topic is be extremely clear about the interest and priority of the other party, right? You need to understand what the other party wants. That's, Catherine, who is a procurement expert, started the message with it. So, if you don't understand what the other party wants, then you ended up shooting on the dark. If instead, you build this understanding, then you can be the customer of choice because you can offer to them, the kind of things that other person may not be ready or willing to offer to them.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And
Thank you.
innovation, it's the same, because when you negotiate in the same way, then you have access to an innovation which is already existing, which means it's no longer only an idea or a concept. It has already a prototype or something. So the reason why partnerships in innovation is important, it's the go-to market and the time to market.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, let me bring a bit the topic, to my passion for innovation. I mean, and when establishing a partnership with supplier, do you find more challenging the internal or external negotiations, and why?
Yeah, both are equally challenging, I would say. The external ones, I think we've mentioned that, what we want to achieve and how and so on. But internally, when you want to innovate on something, by nature, it's not sure, it's unknown. You're not sure of what you will get. So you have your management who then have a pot of money, your budget, and they say, is it better for me to invest in something that may give something, but we're not sure? Or is it better that I continue to invest in my core business? At least this is there will probably be higher success rate of return on investment. So it's important to convince management as well that you need both. Of course, most of it needs to keep the core go so that it can fund the rest. But how to negotiate also internally that they give you some money to invest in things that are unknown, because it's true that maybe only 2 projects out of 10 in innovation will work out. So it's a risk. That's why as well, when you partner with the company that has already developed something, you've eliminated the first part of the risk. So it costs a little bit more money, but at least you're more sure in a way that there is something that you can get. So it's a question of risk and readiness to launch on the market. But it's important to keep this stakeholder management ongoing, to explain what you want to do and how you want to do. And again, in my case, I was lucky to have people, for example, in compliance or legal, who they asked me once, if Catherine would have come with a Uber idea, would have we killed her or not? And they said, yeah, probably we would. So then they thought together and they involved me in the discussion. They say, we don't want that, so we will help you. And so in a few projects, I involved as well the functions that are there to protect the core as well, so that we could have a whole holistic view on this. So I would say it's important to involve people around you from all functions as well, but it's not easier, and both needs to be the negotiation needs to be prepared in the same way.
Okay, so let me take some takeaway from your message.
Mhm.
What you're saying is maybe, especially at the beginning, when you have not yet the credibility of success track record, rather
Yes.
than going for an early adopter, completely innovative kind of things, try to go something which is has already made more of a way, increases the chance of success, and is more likely that the business is
Yeah.
gonna buy into it, right?
Yes.
That's one of the things that. Our listener can retain, especially
Yeah.
to make the first steps
Mhm.
into
Exactly.
build their credibility into the innovation world.
Yeah,
And
it's
yeah,
also important to go baby step, we call it, right? Step by step, because you if you pay a little bit of money and if you're losing it because it doesn't work, it's not a big deal. Whereas we all know these big projects, we fund a lot, and then at the end the results is not so good. So it's also a different ways of working. That's why the mindset is also different. Going one step at a time. We try, we build, we try. Does it work? We continue, or do we pivot, or we kill it? And then if not, you have not spent a lot of money, but you get a lot of learnings, and your next project you can reuse those learnings. So it's
yeah,
also a different ways of working, I would say.
yeah. By the way, another approach that maybe larger company take is maybe they look at innovation as a overall portfolio. In the say, okay, I'm gonna invest in 20 startups. Maybe 18 are going to fail, but the two that are going to succeed may give me a return which is much bigger than the investment that I made in the 20. So,
Yeah.
if you have enough funds, you can afford, to test a lot of different things, recognizing that, the one that work will bring a lot of money.
Yes, exactly.
Uh, just, we are towards the end of our
Yeah.
discussion, but I want to give my excuses to our listener because I'm getting a lots of error message from StreamYard. So it seems that there is a problem with the chat. So if you've been writing questions, I'm sorry, but they're not coming through. So my apologies for this. I mean, it seems to be a technical issue. So okay, but I hope that the conversation was still relevant and interesting for you. Maybe let me ask a last question to Catherine, and is what is the most important element when designing a partnership with a supplier?
I would say I would say three things. But the first one is the strategic alignment. I've alluded to that. I think it's very important first to understand what both companies want to do, and is it aligned in the long run, not only short term, but in the long run. Because if you build a partnership, it takes time, it takes money to build it, and you want to make sure that even in a few years back the road, it will still be working. So an alignment also on the values and on the on the purpose in general. Then I would say as well the relationship. It's very important to create trust, because innovation by nature is something that is difficult to grasp, and there are always unplanned things happening, and you need to be able to pick up your phone and call the partner, and they be able to do the same with us as well, so that you keep the conversation completely open, and then you adapt. So building the relationship and the trust, I think it's super important as well. And the third element is still to understand what is the problem that you want to solve, and you have a joint alignment on a joint view on the problems, and is your solution together with this partner bringing something on the market that nobody else can have. And if you have this, then you're bringing a competitive advantage. So I would say strategic alignment, relationship and trust, and understand if you're bringing something on the market, a competitive advantage that nobody else can bring.
Fantastic. Perfect. Thank you very much. So for these three key
Welcome.
points, XML. Now it looks that StreamYard is back into
Ah,
working. So I'm glad that the issue was solved. And here we have a question that is coming through is from Rafael. So corporate venture capital funds need the right incentive scheme to have any chance of success behind the 20 or so startup invested in. Also, ROI for corporates is not necessarily cash in first instance. Different CVC have different objectives, strategic, financial, etc. So it's more a comment than a question. Thank you, Rafael, for giving us, the perspective of corporate venture capitals. Yeah,
yes.
fantastic. Perfect. Um, Catherine, before we go for the close, I just want to quickly remind to our readers our forthcoming events.
Yes.
So next week, the same time, Thursday, 1 o'clock, effective communication with healthcare regulators. We will have the amazing Eric Klassen that will talk us about how can you deal when you are in regulatory affairs, when you are in quality, when you are in market access, in pricing, and you deal with healthcare regulators. If you're more interested in negotiation, then the week after, on the 8th of September, seizing everyday negotiation opportunity, one of the leading negotiation professors, Susanne de Llanas. You may have read the Harvard Business Review articles on negotiation, and we will be talking about, based on one of her last articles, seizing everyday negotiation opportunities, let's say. So I hope you will be with us for the next 2 weeks to continue the learning journey together. We are committed to sharing with you new ideas and to help you grow. And I would like to thank Catherine today because she really helped us with a lot of new idea on how to uh, combine procurement and innovation and how to effectively innovate inside your company. So thanks again, Catherine. All the very best to everyone
Thank you.
and delighted to reconnect. Bye bye.
Bye bye.